quite a lot of people are struggling with this right now. I know it's one of those things that if you have it, and you don't really think about it. If you don't have it, you definitely feel the sting. What are we talking about today here, Steph? We're talking about money, the big elephant in the room, right? And there is so much instability lately going on. We could feel it in the news, we can feel it in, on a national level. I can safely say that it doesn't even matter where you are from. If you are in the US, if you are in any of the European countries, any other American continent, if you're in Asia, if you doesn't matter, right? If you're in Africa, it doesn't matter. Trying to touch every single one of the of the continents so people don't say like, "Oh my goodness, I'm left out." So that is something that I feel we're all feeling as a nation, as a collective, in some sort of shape, right? And so I'm going to be talking more about that because this is something that it's a major interest of mine when it comes to astrology. You have to understand there are many branches of astrology. And what I'm actually drawn to is a few different topics, and money is a big one of them. And I find it fascinating how even in the birth chart there are a lot of indication telling you where should you be making your money, what you prioritize, what you spend your money on, and some very hidden secret place that are literally your secret money place. It's that thing that you don't even know you have, but then you can tap into it so you can start making bringing in more financial resources into your house. So I'm thinking about the house. That's why I said the house. So today, though, I wanted to really focus on why is it that sometimes we feel like there are various cycles. What creates this was really inspired by a recent session I had, and it's thinking about why exactly that there are sometimes a lot of financial instability and you feel like it's a cycle, right? Why is it that sometimes some people go into them and some people just seem to not even don't even know what you're talking about? And I really wanted us to start understanding and seeing astrology as more of it's not pretty much it's almost guiding you through life, right? And there are cycles. We're gonna dive deeper into that because I am actually preparing and recording something about that, understanding the various cycles of your life. Because sometimes when everything breaks down, when everything falls apart, it's not because there's anything wrong with you. It's not because you're necessarily doomed or you're unlucky. It's just because that is the cycle you're in right now. There are various cycles that it doesn't matter what you do, it's just the theme that is taking place and shaping for that year. So you need to be aware and be aware of what cycle you're in. That way you can use the right tool. Because if you are in a I don't want to get to ahead of myself here, but I just wanted to say in this today's episode that if you a lot of the things you're going through in life will reflect on whichever cycle that you are actually going through, and that is something that we can all see in your specific birth chart. So if you know how to pull out your chart, go on the various tools online. There's so many of them nowadays where you can easily pull your chart, but the problem is not pulling it, the problem is synthesizing the chart. And that's where the magic happens, and that's where I feel like ChatGPT falls short. My bad. But yes, this is where I think that astrologers are extremely useful and to talk to a human being, because ChatGPT or other AI, they don't have this conscious, right, and they don't have this capacity to analyze and read between the lines and put everything together like that. Anyhow, so but do you need to understand what is happening in your own chart, because it will help make sense of your own money story. So I beg you, if you feel like you're going through some financial instability right now, do it is your right and also your responsibility, but it's also your right to find out what is happening. And I promise you that it will feel so much more empowering, not from a control freak perspective, but mostly understanding and seeing the big picture. And if you are with like a good astrologer, they will also be able to let you know what is the next opening that is coming up for you to be able to jump in. Because the thing is, it's not like the universe or the creator or the light or whatever you want to call it is trying to punish us, but we have to understand that life is more of a curriculum, and there's a dance that is going on all the time, and we are part of that dance. So whenever we're going through like harder period, it's not because, oh my goodness, you're unlucky, because everyone goes through them, right? Because life is a cycle. But what's happening is that you need to understand, you need to get the cue. Okay, what is the timing right now? What is the theme? What is the chapter that's kicking in? That way you can jump in, because if you don't jump in, trust me, you will get dragged into it, and this is not pretty. So you want to be able to willingly participate, and then know which set of tools can help you depending on whatever chapter you are in. So that's why I always tell you, do make sure that you know your chart. And also you can always book a session with me. All the links are down below, that way to help you understand what exactly you're going through, and how what is the best way to get through it, and not just get through it like in the survival way. We don't want to just survive, we want to thrive. That's the goal. So in today's segment, I love these little mini bites. How did we call them? I already forgot. Diagnostic. So where we use various issue and troubles and dilemmas, challenges of life, and then we troubleshoot them with things that I actually see with real patients. Patients, I'm thinking about the medical. I was thinking about medical astrology. That's why I said that. But where we actually use the astrology to help you understand what is going on in your life. This is why I think that it was supposed to happen all along. It was never the science, I call it science, was never supposed to be something generic, like, you know, those newspaper like generic daily horoscope thing. If that works for you, that's good. Keep doing that. Whatever makes you have an amazing day, keep doing it, please. But what I'm saying is that astrology really becomes alive when you adapt it to you, because it is a live energy that is constantly interacting with you. So being awakened to that and consciously participating, that's where the magic happens. So let's just bring it down on earth a little bit. Let's just bring practicality in there. What if you feel like money is always unstable? What if you feel like it's just doesn't matter what you do, it just seems to be, it's just things are just not happening. And what I wanted to talk about here is that when we're talking about the ting ting, the second house axis is a very important one. The second and eighth axis is literally going to tell us so much things. So depending on what's your rising sign, again, if you don't know that, you need to know this information. If you don't, but then if you don't have the exact time of your birth, which is important to know your rising sign, then astrologers, we would tend to go with the sun sign, which is still going to give you information, right? But do look at your second and eighth house, because it's an axis. It's like a relationship that is going on. And in the second house, it's literally gonna, we tend to think that's where we make our money, but it's often the second house is mostly showing you what do you prioritize. So someone that has the second house falling in, let's say Virgo, would be someone that is very, meticulous, not always, often. And again, these are like broad stroke, stereotypes, but all these energies show very differently from person to person, depending on what else is in their chart, what other dynamic is at play. This is why I'm always saying the importance of making this personalized, through like making sure you have your own astrologer that you are consulting with, which I do, by the way, and also making sure that you know your own personal chart. That way, whenever you're hearing these activities, those planetary activities, you can adapt them to you. So in the second house, this is where it's showing us what you tend to spend your money on, what is important to you, right? If your ninth house falls there, it's associated with the Sagittarius energy, but that tends to be, naturally, the ninth house. I mean, if Sagittarius falls there, right? often. Travel is going to be very important to you. Higher learning, higher education is going to be very important to you. So understanding all of these things, right? If you have Aries there might be some real independence and being making sure you still have your freedom too, but the flavor is different from the Sagittarius freedom, right? It's that fierceness and a certain zest and so much courage, right? And you would tend to prioritize these type of things that make you feel that way in whichever shape or form they show up for you. So let's go back to our example. We said if the second house is in Virgo, and then let's say the eighth house, the opposite sign, would be Pisces. So Pisces, like what we said before, the second house would show what you value, right? Your values, your principle, your money, also like what you prioritize and what you spend money on. Whereas the eighth house would show you ways that you are meant in this life, your little gifts that can allow you to drag in income into your life. So, how you meant to make money. So, if we're talking about the axis of Virgo and Pisces, now a Virgo falling into the second house, that means the opposite sign would be Pisces, that would fall into the eighth house. So, already there, we can already start seeing are there any other planets in that area, right? Because these are all conversations, layers that are happening, making the conversation a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for? More tangible, more detailed, more specific. And even if we don't have any planet, this is why people always ask, oh, but Steph, what if I don't have any planet there? It doesn't even matter if you have planets there or not, because your house is going to fall into a sign. Whether there's planet or no planet there, it might be an empty house, but it still is associated with a sign. So that is still going to tell us a lot of information, because I'm not even talking about planets here, right? I'm just talking about second house that falls into in Virgo and eighth house that falls into Pisces. That's just the example I'm using for today. That's not my my setup, and it's just like I don't know why I'm thinking about that. So the eighth house falling into Pisces would give us an indication that, right, the way you're gonna make money is gonna have a lot to do with compassion, with like the other humans. It can also be about imagination. It could be about all sorts of things, but like the heart and the feelings, the greater compassion, and that realm is gonna be very, very, very linked to the way you're gonna make money. And this is where we're gonna look into what else is happening close to that house, right? Are there any planets in that house, or are there any aspects? Aspects are pretty much things like opposition, the hard aspects are mostly oppositions and the squares that you hear everyone talking about. But in simple layman's term, what that means is that the hard conversation, or the conversation, the interaction that is happening between, you know, the planets in your house and between various areas of life. This is what I'm saying. Like the chart is really alive and it's constantly talking to you. So one thing I wanted to talk about here, an example, like the situation that happened recently, is having Saturn or Uranus, especially Uranus. Uranus in the second house. Uranus is pretty much, I feel like most people, well, not most people, but many people are getting acquainted with Uranus right now, because Uranus recently moved into Gemini, so people started being more aware of Uranus. Now, I am going to make another episode on Uranus, because I want us to go beyond the stereotypical disruption, because Uranus is actually, I really do believe that Uranus is linked to the highest version of yourself. So all, yes, those disruptions are happening, but they're not just happening for the sake of happening, just to make your life, ridiculously hard. They're happening because the goal is dragging you. We're so off path. The goal is pretty much on our hand. It looks like, oh my God, what is happening? Nothing makes sense. I just lost my job and everything happened, all those disruption. But on a higher purpose, it's literally you are being rerouted closer to your soul's mission for this life. So this is how we need to start seeing Uranus, instead of, oh my goodness, here we go, the troublemaker, the joker, jokes that just like ruining everything, crashing the party. So, but if we have Uranus making any aspects of being in those houses, in your money house, in the on the two, anywhere close, to like the two and the second house axis, often you will have a tendency to experience life money as being sporadic, as in everything falls, everything comes, and then nothing happens. Or you might find yourself working in a situation where you're working with commission, so it might have you might have a tendency to think about lack right away. But often, yes, the money comes in a disruptive way, but often the windfall is actually greater than the money you would have made if you had, let's say, a very, very stable income. You know what I mean? I hope you're really getting what I'm trying to say here. What I'm saying is that a lot of time when we're thinking about commission, for example, we're thinking, oh my God, this is so unstable. I can't work like that. But those commission and what we often call sporadic are they tend to bring in way much more money than you would have made if you had, let's say, a stable job, a stable income with the same amount coming at the specific exact frequency that you're expecting it to show up in. So we need to be aware of all these things, and that's why I find financial money astrology is so just I'm totally absolutely fascinated into this thing, and it's just a rabbit hole that never ends. There's always so much things to learn, so much things that you can apply to your birth chart. So if you feeling like this topic today applies to you, because I know this might feel a little bit left field, like what? But definitely you could come and see me and we can look deeper into that. But I just wanted you to understand that if you feel like you're having money problems right now, or like it's been really tough with the career, with the stability, it's not because you unlucky or because everyone gets all the luck but you, but often it's because we don't understand the way we are made up. We don't understand, and then you comparing yourself with others. But what you have to understand, what this work, what astrology has helped me do, is understand people on deeper level and have so much more infinite greater compassion, and also help you understand yourself more. Whereas you once you start understand that, stop comparing your financial situation with XYZ, with that other person who, by the way, you could never really fully know what's going on in their life, because hello, I'm not sure they're like calling you whenever they're opening up their books. But let's be careful not to fall for the Jonases. But I want you to understand that you are working with your own lot. You are working with your own setting. And then you're not meant to make money like the other person next to you. You're not meant to, you don't spend it the same way. Some people, I personally absolutely love spending my money on education, on training, on books, on knowledge. I get a thrill out of these things, right? Other people might like spending their money on, well, I also like spending my money on way more than that, but other people might enjoy spending their money on, I don't know, I'm thinking about what else other example could I say, on traveling, right? On traveling, and then hello Sagittarius energy, right? On traveling, on freedom, or designer stuff, or things like that. So we need to stop shaming ourselves and really fully understand what are you made of, and that way you can play to your strength and counterbalance the shadow part, the weaknesses, because we all have them, both strength and weaknesses. And that's what I wanted to say. And also, by you understand what makeup you are, what is the settings that you're working with, that way you can stop fighting an uphill battle, and then you can really start thriving. I don't really think there's any other way. And also the most important things too, understanding the cycles, but we're gonna dive into the cycles later on. But understanding that there's also something that I do with some of my clients is pulling out their career cycles, right? If whenever someone feels really stuck in their career, that's something that we do, because we're not automatically going to go in the usual way. What are you doing wrong? What you could do better? No, no, no. All of those generic examples. That's why I like those astrology so much, because it allows us to really get concrete, specific, right? For example, by pulling out the understanding, by using the Jupiter and Saturn relationship, right? Those cycles, then we can really understand where are you in the cycle. Because not every, think about nature. I'm always talking about nature, right? I'm pretty sure you could go to a farmer in the middle, let's say in the northern hemisphere, right? In January and February, you go to the farmer and then you ask him to start planting seeds because you want to make a, you want to have a tree right now. They'll look at you like, what? They look at you like you delusional. First of all, it's not the time to plant a tree right now, right? And at the same time, if you go in February and you're asking him for harvest, they'll look at you like, what is wrong with this person? There is a time for everything. And I think this is the problem with our modern culture. We have been so detached, right? I remember like growing up as a kid, not that I'm that old, but even then, we used to have some fruits are in season right now. Well, then you know what season it is, what fruit is in season. And other times you knew where you're not gonna find this fruit right now because it's not in season. You have to wait. And I think there was a certain magic in life. I really want to be careful that I'm not doing this nostalgia and romanticizing the past, but there was also a certain type of magic in that because it forced you to really appreciate that thing because you knew it was a season. There's a very defined moment in time where this is available. It's not going to be available all the time. And then that way it allows you to cycle because then you move on to something else and then things always stay fresh because they're not always available all the time. And this is what I think we lost with our modern day, right? Where we have globalization. You can go to the I personally can't tell you right now what fruit is in season, what and when and where, because everything is always available, whatever, wherever you are. The best example I can think of that is a few years back, I was traveling. I was in the Nordic countries. Which one was it? Because I was in, where was I? I was in Latvia, all the way in, all the way like around right under close to Finland, close to Scandinavia, but it's not quite Scandinavia, right? It's that corner of the world. So I was in Latvia and I remember it was beautiful. It was summertime. I went there for like a sports competition. And then it's such a beautiful place. I'm telling you, by the beach, and everyone is happy because hello, they know winter, and finally they get to have some summer months. And there was a little taco stall where we were eating. We were ordering tacos and then sitting on the sand eating the tacos. And I remember talking to the guy and asking him, "Wait, so you can I have some avocado in there?" And then he's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry, but we don't have avocado." And my immediate reaction as someone who grew up in Canada, where like avocados and also in the islands where avocados were always a part of life, right? Didn't think about it that much. So and then when he said, "Oh, I'm really sorry," but like at first we tried our best to put avocados because to me avocados tacos without avocados were like a crime. You would never see that in Mexico. It's like it was an absolute crime, and I love my tacos and I love my avocados. So it was a shock, right? It's something that you don't even think about because again, we get spoiled, we get used to things being available all the time. And then you explain to us, yeah, we're all the way in Latvia here. It's really cold. We don't produce avocados ourselves. And at first, we tried our best to put the out to have the avocados be part of the menus, but the avocados just wouldn't last. It's just impossible to make them last here, and it was just not. And they're super expensive, and it wasn't making any sense. We had to let them go. And I was like, wow. And you know what? I'm not gonna lie. As someone who's been and spent a lot of time in Mexico, the tacos I had in Latvia were some of the best tacos of my life without avocado. So, all this to say that, right, it forced me to keep an open mind, think outside the box. And in a way, this is what the different cycles are supposed to do for us. It's supposed to keep us on our toes, make life interesting, shift us into a different energy. Before that taco episode, I would have never, ever thought like it was possible to make a taco without avocado. But I'm telling you, this was one of the juiciest, tastiest, because these people had to get creative to make up for that, right? And in a way, this is how I want us to start inviting us to see our finances the same way. There are various cycles in life, and by understanding the cycle in which you are right now, you can use that energy and run with it. And that way you can flow with nature. There's like, I call it nature because to me, the cycles are, I equate them to nature. And that is, think about it, that is a world apart from living with stress and shame, because what is wrong with you? Why can't you make money? Everyone seems to be doing fine. Why are you struggling so much? So instead of, like pushing that rock up a hill and then it's constantly rolling down and you constantly starting over again, that way you can know exactly what cycle you in. Just like the farmer knows, okay, it's harvest time. Go. All right now is the time where we need to get ready and get ready for the next season. Right now it's rest time where we let the seed do their magic. That way we can start approaching our life the same way. On that note, this was not even that's not even the outline I had for today's episode, but it is what it is. And thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you in the next one, and keep shining bright like a diamond.